Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suwaid.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta to dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo to nga andil mahalis. Hello?
Busel mo fine.
What?
Busel mo fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Busel mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
It's 9 minutes past 9 o'clock, and someone who's been patiently waiting in the studio for the past 9 minutes is Alhaji Ousainou Darboe. We all know him as Lawyer Darboe, the leader and Secretary General of the main opposition United Democratic Party. Alhaji Ousainou, welcome back to West Coast Radio, Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Thank you very much, Peter, for hosting me again on a program that I follow every day. It's my favorite program.
I tell everybody.
Yes.
I tell everybody. Thanks for coming. We have a lot to ask about the UDP, but before we get there, I want to start with the President's State of the Nation address. It's an event I suppose you attend, you try to attend every year. I'm not sure about this year. Were you in the National Assembly to hear it again?
Oh, yes. I attended. I honored the invitation that was extended to me to attend. After all, this is a national event.
It is,
it's not a party political event, but it's an event. So I was there because my stand is always that, if I occupy that office, I would like to see my colleagues on the political terrain attend such an occasion. So I should not really keep away from national events. I don't get myself absent from it.
You're being very modest. You're saying, if I occupy, I know your lieutenants who insist when you occupy.
Well, certainly.
Yeah. And how do you react? Earlier on, we heard from Mai Ahmed Fati, we heard from Bakari Baji, and we also heard from one of your own MPs, Fatmata Cham. What's your, what's your reaction to the State of the Nation address, the SoNA?
Well, it was certainly a checklist of a propaganda agenda. This, I can see that, he is starting a campaign for the 2026 presidential elections. The paragraphs, of me, there was a lot of vagueness in some of them, and in fact, some areas that it dealt with, I think, more could have been said what the government intends to do. And one area that concerns me more, or that I'm interested more, is really the area of foreign affairs, foreign policy. And I'm interested in it for the reason that our president is the chairman of the OIC. And in this day, when the world is in turmoil, I think this is the time that he must stand up as chairman of the OIC.
Well, didn't he? He called for peace to return to the Middle East.
That is really sitting in the Gambian National Assembly and calling for peace to return to the Middle East. As chairman, you ought to do more than that. As chairman, you ought to engage others. And like the world leaders,
If this war had broken out when you were still Minister of Foreign Affairs, what would have been your role? If the president had, taken no move as foreign minister, what would you have done?
Well, the person really in charge of foreign policy is the president. That is what the Constitution provides for.
Okay.
The foreign minister is just the senior ambassador.
Okay.
So it would be, I would urge him, I would advise him that what steps we should take. I would ask him.
So when people apportion blame to Dr. Momodou Tangara, they are targeting the wrong person.
Well, in my view, they are targeting the wrong person because Tangara is certainly the most senior ambassador. Yeah. If I were in his position, first place, as chairman of the OIC, I would get the African group, the AU, to really partner with me in seeking for solution, not only to the Iran-Israel thing. In fact, the Iran-Israel thing could probably have been averted. We would make sure that the Gaza issue is handled. I mean, and he should be approaching the issue not as president of the Gambia, but as chairman of the OIC.
Of course.
Because if he does approach it as president of the Gambia, people would like to say, but what political weight does he have? But then, as chairman of the OIC, he has a lot of political weight.
Yeah, 57 nations behind him.
57 nations behind. And that is the situation I think he ought to have exploited. You remember there was a time I called on him that the situation in fact, which was brewing up in the Middle East and also Sudan, and Myanmar, I called upon him that he should step up and do something.
Why do you think he is not stepping up?
Well, I really do not want to guess. I really do not want to guess. But then, the response then coming was that, look, this is a troika. It should be a troika event or initiative. The current president, chairman, the incoming chairman, and the past chairman they should work together in it. And when I heard that, I said, but look, yeah, you may be right, but who should trigger it? I think he's the one who should trigger it. He is the chairman. So he should get the past president and the incoming president, tell them, look, we should get together and do these things for the sake of the Muslim Ummah. We appreciate very much the position that the Gambia has taken as far as the issue in Myanmar is concerned. But that is the legal approach. There should also be the political approach to it, so that you have these, and then, we are so well placed to pursue that. But I think it's a missed opportunity, and I think that will really have stamped, his mark on the wall.
Again, he trumpeted the Gambia's hosting of the OIC summit. I mean, to him, this was a successful event. The opposition has consistently, criticized our hosting as a failure because out of 57 heads of state, it's only the 6. From the usual countries that joined him in Banjul, so he sees it as a success. The opposition says it's not successful. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, my take on it is that certainly it was not successful. I think his emissaries should have done more to lobby. Well, not necessarily lobby, but to impress on member states that this is their conference. Gambia is hosting it, and any failure in the organization is a failure for the entire organization. I think his ambassador should have gone out and sell out and make sure that all member states attend. Look, I mean, when we were there, by Lamin Job, myself, Lamin Sane, we had this grandiose, very big idea. We are even thinking that some of the kings, the Arab kings, could come in their yachts and bath there at Banjul and then drive from Banjul to the conference center. All these were things that we thought should happen.
Do you think if you had continued as foreign minister, that would have happened?
Well, I may not get them to come in their yachts, but certainly would have got them attend, a huge number of them attend. And my particular disappointment was that, even in the sub-region, there was a singular absence of the presidents, at least.
Which one?
Nigeria was singularly absent. Because when I say singularly absent, I'm not saying that there was no representation. But we expected.
Yeah.
Tinubu. In fact, we expect all the presidents in the sub-region to attend. In fact, all the presidents in Africa to attend, because Gambia, I mean, as the African country, because this is rotation, you know, so it happened Africa's tongue. Gambia was really hosting this. So for me, it wasn't a success. And there was an side event organized. I think, okay, that is the business, I think the investment forum.
Yeah.
You know, that was organized, a side event. I think that was good, but then how much results did you have from it, particularly for the Gambia? Because it was just not enough to organize an investment forum, but to organize it with an objective of getting investors into your country. Have we done a lot to sell the Gambia to those who attended that investment forum? I think, I mean, if I have said that even before I left, that look, we have to really try to redefine the objectives of the OIC. It should not just be, I mean, a meeting of Islamic states, you know, come pass a resolution on Palestine, I mean, condemn what is happening in the Middle East, and then we disperse. It should be more than that.
Well,
we should also look at at the economic and social conditions of the member states. We should really be in a position, you know, to convince our Arab-rich brothers that instead of investing all these $1 billion in France, in America, in UK, in Europe, why don't you bring it to the countries where you have a larger Muslim population so that they can also grow? We want to tell them that, you know, let us assist each other so that we stop being beggars. That has been, in fact, these are ideas that, you know, I just toy with Lamisan and that, you know, these are things that we should discuss, and so that we could have a topic design a topic that will be the main theme. And we should suggest it to the organization. That should be the main theme of the conference. Okay. Because you want.
So, as host country, you can, you know, decide the agenda.
Well, we should because as host country, you know, we should tell them that look, can we really discuss this?
Let's go back to the SoNA. What other areas, you know, do you have an opinion on or opinions on? Fatmata Cham spoke about women. Bakari Baji spoke about electricity. Fatmata also spoke about electricity.
Well, yes. Well, of course, electricity. We see poles being erected all over the country, you know, with wires, you know, and I know that in some places they have gone to dump meters on them, and in some cases they say free. And we know, of course, we know what all that means, because
what does that all mean? I don't think.
Well, it's an incentive for it's incentive really for the 2026 presidential elections.
Well, erect your own polls.
Unfortunately, we do not control the polls. You know, if we were controlling the polls, we would have applied those resources in a more meaningful manner that will impact positively on the lives of the people. But look, Peter, how can you give meters to people free when NAWEC is in such a dire situation? Because NAWEC must have spent money in acquiring those meters.
Well, they tell us that these are World Bank funded. There's a project precisely for that.
Look, World Bank funded. You know, World Bank doesn't give to say, look, give to people free. World Bank would do that for food and so forth. But after all, NAWEC is supposed to be a profit-making organization.
Yes.
So World Bank will give them those meters to put it on the market so that they could really build up their profits, so that they do not have to source for local funds to do that. So for me, it's just that's just an excuse that World Bank gave us this. After all, don't we get free rice from Japan? Yet we sell them. Yeah. So really, it's just propaganda. But what is more, at least last week, I have been experiencing power outages. Been experiencing.
Everybody has.
So what is all this pump about electricity all over the country?
90%.
90%.
By the end of this year, 90% coverage.
I think it is quite easy for politicians to make promises, and especially when the person who is making the promise, there is no opportunity for the listener to really engage him on the spot. So you can make any promises and walk away.
Is that what you think Barrow did on Thursday?
Well, absolutely. But how many times have been having promises about that electricity problem in this country will be resolved?
Yeah.
Forever. How many times have you had that promise?
At first,
from Jammeh.
At first, the universal access should have been, attained in 2025. Now it's what, 2027?
Well, yes, 2027. Because when the promise was made, there was really no concrete plan. This was just, things coming off their heads.
Well, they actually had an electricity roadmap.
You can have a roadmap. I remember when I was cabinet, Fafa Sanyang, did design.
Exactly, he was the minister at the time.
Yes, did design. I do remember that, did design a roadmap, But that roadmap, have you followed it? Because if you had followed that roadmap by now, we wouldn't have been bothered about the withdrawal of car power.
This would have been...
We wouldn't have been bothered with the Senelec issues. But because the roadmap was not followed, probably the technicians designed it properly and with an objective of achieving a good result. But then when it came to implementation, things didn't materialize.
Gambia's Achilles heel, implementation.
Yeah. Of course, after I listened to the address, I was going to say, when the president came to shake my hand, I was going to say, Adama road infrastructure. but that would have been humor. But then I cannot do it with the people.
Yeah, and then the media would pick it up and blow it out of proportion.
Out of proportion.
So when you shook hands, what was the exchange like?
No, of course. What is usual among Gambians, exchange pleasantries. How is your family? We are all doing fine. Those sort of exchanges, and. What really baffled me was why the cameras were so interested.
Well, these are the two most powerful politicians in the country.
No, but for them, I believe, it was for some other reason.
Yeah.
For some other reason, which I think we should.
They were looking for a slip of the tongue.
I think we should really be looking to things that are more substantive, more beneficial. But then me shaking hands with Barrow, you have all over in the social media.
Well, you should expect that everywhere the two of you, meet.
Yes.
So okay,
but agriculture, Peter.
Yes.
You see, all these monies that have been spent on the road infrastructure. If you take 3/4 of that and inject it in agriculture, we would by now have been near food self-sufficiency. And your next step, having attained food sufficiency, your next step would be to export so that you have a return on your investment. This $75 million currency swap, I would have taken 50 million of that, injected in agriculture.
Well, is agriculture not getting more than 50 million?
But you need more. Because for it to be food self-sufficient, we need to invest more in agriculture. And when I say more in agriculture, I just don't mean that you have the department of agriculture, but then help the farmers. Let the funds be available to the farmers.
Well, they are giving subsidized fertilizer. They are giving seeds at the commencement of every agricultural season and all of that. That is helping, isn't it?
But what quality of seeds? Fertilizer, they say they're subsidized. Well, we've seen our neighbors who have given fertilizer free. Why can't we do that? If that $50 million that I'm talking about, if you use part of that to give free fertilizer to the farming community, you would have done a lot for them. But again, you see, these are priorities, just as the going saying goes, seeing is believing. It's a people to the road. But the time it takes for Gambia to graduate from rice importer, it will take time. No one will see that.
Okay.
So you cannot use that as a propaganda tool.
But economists also tell us that, road networks, infrastructure, investing in them has, direct benefits on the economy.
I agree. No one can argue against that, But, there's a proverb. I had a Mandinka proverb from one of my...
You can say it in Mandinka.
Now
we are very flexible when it comes to language.
Well, when I saw Seku and Taf, when they come here, they speak here. Kemi Senjame, he made a profound statement one time. He said, look, silo mo konola toileti. That is to say, you have to have enough food before you concentrate on roads.
Of course.
So that is why we say we are not in any way downplaying the fact that we need roads and good roads too. But we are saying that feed the people first. Because you have roads that cannot be used when people are hungry, they're starving. What's a good road to him? What's the use of a good road to him? But no one is downplaying it. And we want to say that we should encourage. That is why I said that from that $75 million, I would take 50 million and put it in agriculture, and the 25 million in road projects. Yeah.
Given your thoughts and the thoughts of people like Fatmata Cham and Bakari Baji on the State of the Nation address, is it time the National Assembly made SoNAs something of a scorecard? The president coming and reporting on levels of implementation, achievements of promises made, in the last SoNA. For instance, this thing about electricity. We could come back, next year, and he is still saying, we will attain such and such and such and such. It was delayed because everybody, can point to...
Of course.
Yeah. Supply chain. Everybody talks about supply, especially the Gambia being a consumer, country. Everything we consume, we bring from outside. So you can always blame, supply chain, especially vis-a-vis, some of the geographical and, geopolitical developments on a daily basis. This war in Iran, we do not know how it will impact, economies, in the near term.
Yeah,
to say, well, you said this last year. How far have you gone in its implementation, rather than getting these declarations of intent year in, year out?
Absolutely. In fact, that is what I think should happen, so that he can really genuinely convince people that, look, we have delivered.
Yeah,
then when it's all declarations, solemn declarations, without implementation, it's really not doing good for the country, because the impact of your policy is really not being. The impact of your policy is really not being shown to the people, because the SoNA, in fact, should address government's policies on the conditions of the state. Yeah. That is what it should. And they do not just make your scorecard, you don't just go say 90%, but also what policy
Well,
issues.
if you've done 90%, it's okay. It's okay to reflect 90%.
Yeah, it's 90%. Then, what other policy matters do you wish to bring up to facilitate an accelerated achievement of the remaining 10%? And it should be that way. Because, it is the policies, implementation of the policies, or the designing of the policies that will really lead you to doing what you are doing.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Busel mu fine? Wave, your money is yours.
We're talking to Alhaji Darboe, or Lawyer Darboe of the United Democratic Party. He is with us until 11 o'clock, if we can get him engaged with some of your questions, suggestions, or just, observations you make about, probably what he says during the next hour and a half. Let's talk about UDP, which is why you are here. What's happening with your party, Alhaji Usainu? I mean, we hear that, there's, internecine warfare, brother against brother, sister against sister. The center doesn't seem to be holding anymore.
Well, Peter, if the center doesn't hold, then things will fall apart.
Well, you see where I'm going. That's why it's good to go to St. Augustine's High School.
Yeah. But Peter, let me say this. I think people have been saying that UDP, there's fratricidal war. In fact, they use war. Fratricidal war, internecine, UDP is rifted, is torn apart. Well, those are perceptions and, of course, opinions.
Perceptions, not reality.
Not reality. But, Peter, I am really happy that Gambian people are focusing on UDP. They are showing their concerns about this domestic squabble. I'll call it domestic squabble. That has taken within the party. They are concerned about it. That because UDP is their hope. So they do not want to see their hope shattered. That is why you have this. Who is talking about? Keba Mahdi and others. Nobody's.
Well, they are being talked about now.
No.
NPP are talking about Keba Mahdi.
No, NPP. But what I'm saying is that ordinary Gambians, ordinary Gambians. Yeah? Who, some commentators who are not known UDP supporters. They may be, and I do not even know if they are UDP sympathizers, are addressing this issue. They are addressing this issue because they are Gambians and they are concerned that their hope for to have Gambia salvaged is UDP. UDP is the vehicle through which this can be done. And they do not want to have their hopes shattered. Yesterday I watched Facebook, I don't know whether it was live or recorded, but my wife showed it to me. I looked, and this gentleman was the man. Look, I have never voted for UDP, but really, the hope is for Gambia's hope is on UDP. So we want UDP to put the house in order so that our country can be redeemed from the current inefficient government. He claimed that he's not a UDP. So what I'm saying is that all these comments, for me, I'm very grateful to the Gambians who are making it. And it also tells me, as leader of the UDP, what I must do and what I must not do. So for me, I appreciate those criticisms, I appreciate those concerns. And I hope that we'll continue to have as many such views. Some people might think that they're negatives. No, for me, they're not negative. For me, it enriches my ability to really make informed decisions. And I hope I can have as many of these, or read as many of these as possible, or even reaching out to me personally. Because let me say that I think I am the most accessible politician in this country.
Well, to me you are. Yes, every time I call you, you pay.
So.
Let's start with your must-dos. What must you do now in the wake of what you call, the squabbles?
Well, what I must do now is to ensure that there are no domestic, I'll call them domestic, there are no domestic squabbles.
In public?
Even internally.
Okay.
Even internally.
That would be a great achievement.
Even internally. Because containing for it not to be public, you're really failing, because you never know when some loose cannon can really do something that you think ought to have been done internally. So I'm making sure that these domestic squabbles, they do not even take place internally. We must agree that we can disagree on principles. As I have said, each and every member of the United Democratic Party who feels that you are capable to be the leader of the party or to be a flag bearer, I mean, you should. And I want, if I were not leader of the United Democratic Party and I belong to this party, I would one day want to be its leader. Because that is, for me, is the greatest badge of honor.
So it's okay to aspire to leadership?
It's okay to aspire to leadership. What is not okay is really to undermine each other. After all, we see in other countries, people vie for leadership of the parties. Yeah. People vie for position of the party. Once a leader is elected, everyone.
In England, we had the story of the Miliband.
The two brothers.
Yes.
Two brothers. In Africa here, such thing happening, or they'll say, wow, need how many band for someone need like that. But because they define principles, they all have a vision for Labour Party which is different. So really, it's acceptable. And in the Gambia here, it has happened too.
Who and who?
In Gambian history, has happened too. There's late Omar Sise, Omar Toure, he's deceased. He contested against his brother, Sadio Toure, in Same district. Okay. And it was, some people thought that was, in our Gambian context, it was unacceptable. But then the two brothers, they are both educated, and they thought that this was something normal in politics. You cannot all be on the same page. And that, I say, we can have people in the UDP who aspire to become leaders of this party. And of course, for you to be leader of the party, you have to show the qualities. You have to really prepare yourself, or you must be doing things that will really make people start pointing fingers at you, or start to think that, look, we should really have this lady or this gentleman in mind. And Peter, I can tell you, there are hundreds of such capable and men and women of character in the United Democratic Party.
But only one can succeed you.
Only one can succeed.
And then the process of succession, I mean, a lot of people would say should have started, some time ago. I mean, okay, we might all want, person A to continue leading the party, but as we say, nobody is immortal. Long may you live, but, there will come a day when the party has to move on the new leadership.
Certainly. That is why you have
so where is succession on your agenda?
That is why you have a lot of young people in the national executive of the party. That is why you have a lot of young people in the leadership of our councils in the National Assembly. You cannot, or I don't think it will be right for me as a leader to say, let's start saying that, look, Peter, I think Peter should succeed me. I don't think that will be right.
Who should do that? The executive?
The executive should do that. Well, the Congress.
Okay.
The Congress should do that, And I think it will also not be right for me to try and influence the decision of the Congress to say that this is my favorite. I cannot, and I should not do that. Well, I certainly admire all my young, I call them my sons and daughters. I have great admiration for them, for their ability, for their integrity, for their patriotism, and their love of the party. No, each and every one young person in our party believes in UDP. And they are all out to push the agenda of the United Democratic Party and nothing else. So you have that big pool from which you can select a leader. And of course, when the time comes, it will happen. Peter, I've said that, I will leave the United Democratic. I came into the United Democratic Party leader with grace. And inshallah, I will live with grace. And I wouldn't give a 6 months notice. I should give at least 2 years notice so that those who really want to succeed me, can start doing their things, and whatever small domestic squabbles you have can be settled before you reach the day of selection.
Well, for the overly ambitious young ones, 2 years will be a long time, because 2 years will be past the 2026 elections. But let me just ask about, as a father, your relationship with your offspring. We have heard Rohi Malik Lowe make statements. We've now had this brotherly, if you want to put it that way, exchange between Chairman Yankuba Darboe in Brikama and Mayor Bensouda in KM. What's your relationship like with your daughter, Rohi Malik Lowe?
My relationship with all of them, with all three of them.
Let's take one at a time, because we have heard Rohi Malik Lowe publicly complain that she felt at some point she wasn't getting the support from the party that she deserved. The party would even, put out statements about other issues, but not about her achievements, and even maybe the way she was being treated by central government.
Well, my relationship with Rohi Malik Lowe, I think is very good. I know the statement she has made. She has regretted it.
Oh, she has?
She has regretted it.
She called you to apologize or what?
She wished she had never made such a statement. You see, Peter, I'll not be here to tell you that, when Peter complains to me, this is what I do or this is what I have done. I do not think that is the right thing. If anything is done, or if nothing is done, would be seen in how the person complained about has comported himself or herself since then. For me to come here and say, look, Peter, this is what I have done with this particular issue, this is what I have done with that particular issue, is really to be engaging Rohi in absentia, and then, telling people things, that,
Well, she engaged you in absentia when she was on on mainstream media talking about the party.
You see, we are both levels, but our level of leaderships are not the same. So I should certainly not do that. Okay. I know that what Yankuba also has probably regretted what he has said, and he wished he had never said those things. That I know that.
Well, he should come out in public and say, "Well, I wish that I never said those things."
Yes, Peter. A lot of things have happened. When people should say publicly, but I have dealt with very sensitive issues. My party members making certain utterances in public, not necessarily about UDP, but about other institutions and about other people, and I have dealt with them in ways that I think is more effective. Because in the first place, what I tell all of them is that you are aspiring leaders. You are not only aspiring to be leader of the United Democratic Party, but also leader of the Gambian people, president of the Gambian people. You know, you are all aspiring. So your actions, your words, your statements, must be one that unifies people. You are not talking about Christians. You are not saying anything demeaning about Christians. You are not saying anything demeaning about Muslims. You are not saying anything demeaning about any tribe. Because after all, if you become leader of the United Democratic Party, you are going to lead all those people. That is what you aspire. So you must be a kind of father figure. I'm protest that on them, and certainly, I think they have imbibed that. I think it has sat with them well. But then, as a father, you continue, to really guide, your, as you say, your offsprings, on the right path. If they want to go off track, I bring them on.
Okay. So let's assume they're all, back on track now with you. But, what could you have done, knowingly or unknowingly, to lead Yankuba to think that you favor Talib over him?
Well, I think really that should be for Yankuba to answer. As far as I'm concerned, I give each and every one of them your due. None of them invites me to an occasion that I have snubbed. I've always been at the occasions. Yeah? Look, I have gone to...
But have you invited one maybe to your home more than the other? Could Talib have visited you more than Yankuba?
In fact, the thing is that I don't invite anybody to my home. You come on your own.
Has Talib come to you more than Yankuba has done?
Yeah, Talib hasn't come to me, to my home, more than Yankuba has done. I have engaged with Talib more than with Yankuba in his capacity as the organizing secretary chairman. I have no choice. Anyone who occupies that office, I have to work with you.
Could it be he has seen, this, collaboration, whether forced on you or whatever, as the trigger?
Nobody can force anything on me.
Well, when I say forced, by virtue of the fact that you have to work, side by side. It's like me and Jibril. Whether I like Jibril or not, the position he holds, forces me to work with him on a daily basis.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's a good example because maybe Jibril is employed, maybe Jibril is employed.
It's paid employment. Talib is also employed to be social secretary.
No, Talib is elected by Congress.
Oh, okay.
He is elected by Congress.
Even stronger, which means that even if you want to get rid of him, you cannot. Yes, exactly.
I cannot. Yankuba is elected by Congress as the deputy chair of the Media and Communication Unit. So when it comes to media matters, they are the ones they are the ones I deal with. Rahi is the second deputy vice president of the national vice president of the party. When it comes with matters that the presidency of the party should deal with, they are the ones that I deal with. So I work with each and every member of the executive in the role in which you have been elected by Congress. And I cannot really get rid of anyone. If that has to happen, there has to be a meeting of the Central Committee to really decide on that. Not even the executive can do that. Yeah. So if I relate with Talib, it's always in relation to that. But to say personal visits, no. You know, maybe there are some that I have had more personal visits from. You know, waiting for them to come for lunch. You know, I have had that with some. You know, yeah.
Okay. You know, for a very long time, older persons wished, and you know, younger persons, you know, the youth demanded for an opportunity, you know, to be in leadership in the various political parties, and obviously the United Democratic Party has seen a lot of, you know, young blood in its leadership. Are these some of the challenges that come with having to deal with younger people, you know, intergenerational interaction, if you like? You would have no problem with the Lamin Manes and the Larry Cises, you know, but the young people, you know, may be more ambitious and less patient, you know, than, you know, older persons.
Well, you are right. You are right, and but that is why the leader should really make sure that what he tells them and how he behaves towards them would some way tame their ambitions. Yes, would some way tame their ambitions. Yeah. And as I say, I have no problem with any young person wanting to be leader of the United Democratic Party. I have absolutely no problem with it. What I have problem with is how you go about
trying to become leader.
Trying to become a leader. That's the only thing I have a problem about. You know, and you see, if Yankuba is selected as a leader of the United Democratic Party or flag bearer, and let me make this thing clear. Leadership of the United Democratic, the fact that I'm party leader and secretary general does not entitle me or does not make me automatically the presidential candidate, because I don't have to be. After all, Adama Barrow was selected as presidential candidate for UDP whilst I was still the party leader. So there has to be that distinction. Holding the position of Secretary General and leader of the party does not automatically...
In that case, why did you not allow him to be the flag bearer in 2021? He wasn't threatening your position as leader. He only wanted to be the flag bearer of the party while you continued with leadership of the UDP.
Well, that's another story for another day.
Well, we won't get to here that easily. So let's treat that question now.
Well, I think he started it from the wrong footing. When you start saying anyone who wants to be president or presidential candidate, yeah, that's a coup d'etat. That in the United States, the presidents are always the flag bearer for their parties. But you have forgotten the fact that you have resigned from that party. So you are not a member of that party. So you cannot claim association in any way, political with the party. You have resigned, you are an independent candidate.
Had he not written to reapply for membership?
He has not written.
Oh.
He has not written to apply. I know some people really wanted him to reapply.
Why didn't he?
I don't know. And you know one of those people,
who?
I wouldn't mention his name, is one of them that has been expelled, among the 4 people that has been expelled.
Kebalang?
No, I wouldn't mention the name.
Could be Kebalang.
No, Kebalang is the deputy speaker. No, Kebala is a nominated member, rather. Kebala is you are talking of Keba Madi.
Keba Madi.
Yeah, no, I certainly wouldn't mention the name. But one of them had written in those days to say that allow Barrow to apply to return to the UDP. It was probably discussed with him, but he never did. But then he goes out to say that, look, if anyone wants to run as president against me, that is coup d'etat. In the United States, presidents are renominated. I said, but you are wrong. After all, Jimmy Carter, Ted Kennedy was run against Jimmy Carter. Lyndon B. Johnson before he stepped down, people are running against him. So those people in America, who were there, they do not understand, how American politics really works. They think that always it is the president that comes in as the nominee of his party. Yeah? But that is it. If he had done things in the right way, we could have done. But then that's okay. Yeah? And I think that is good for the country.
So you have this outburst from Yankuba Darboe, and then you came out with a statement reaffirming your intention to seek nomination to run in 2026. Is that effectively saying everybody else should, back off? That I will be the UDP flag bearer again in 2026?
No, it's not. It's not. Because if you read the entire statement, we cannot just pick out that to say that's probably getting people. The entire statement, we still encourage people. We said that it's open. And I wish that when UDP invites applications, and that just shows you that the being leader does not automatically are there. If UDP opens up invitations for leadership of the party, I wish other people can apply. I wish they can apply. Yes.
This is your opportunity, to answer this question on the radio, but I understand, in the immediate aftermath of your statement, your house got flooded, with people who came, to show solidarity with you, their support. And I remember it was during that period that I was, calling you, trying to set up this interview, and it was so difficult to reach you. And then, when I got to Larry Cisse eventually, and I said, look, I've been calling Alhaji Usainu Darboe for the past 2 days without reaching him. He said to me, that man cannot even have time
I wasn't even taking my meal
to rest. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
How much reputational damage do you think the outburst has done to the UDP?
Well, I do not think it has done a reputational damage that is irreparable. I don't think so. You see, Peter, it is in the majority of cases, it is the leader who shapes the direction of the party. All those who have known me, I'm not vaunting now, but all those who have known me know that Usainu Darboe doesn't think tribal. He has no tribalist inclination in him. His marital life exposes that the uncles of all his children are people who do not belong to the Mandinga tribe. And these are the children. They are Buffet's nieces. How can Usainu Darboe be tribalistic?
Or anti one religion.
That's right. And Nandimai's children, their uncles, are the Suleiman Sinyans. In fact, Suleiman Sinyan's father, Alai Lamin Sinyan, who I was very, very close to. I had done a lot of things for him. I was very close to, not favors, no, but asking me to run errands for him. Yeah, I've done that for him. It was his father, Suleiman Sinyan's father, Lamin Sinyan, who gave Maimunandu to me as my wife. And then that put me in all the Sinyanian, Nduren, became my in-laws. And M.E. Jallo of blessed memory was one that I had a lot of personal contacts with me. After the 1981 rebellion, and I started defending some people, there was a lot of concerns raised within their family, and he made them understand that I was doing what was required of me professionally. If I accept a brief, I cannot return it, unless there must be some very good reasons for it. No, I have, quietly been mentored by people like Uncle A.J. Senghor. And Maud Senghor came into the house and found me several times, sitting with the old man. I have been mentored with, of course, P.S. Njai, that's a matter of public knowledge. He was my father. How can I be tribalistic? Even my father had 2 fuller wives, and they are the ones who currently we call our mothers. Nigeria too, and Nansali, they are all fullers. I have my nephews who have got married into Jola families. How can I, for any moment, think tribal? But these are detractors. And in politics, the dirtiest things can happen. And this started in Jamia's time. Because they thought that, the tribe I come from was a big force. Look, even during Jawara's time, this issue of we should not be tribalist and so forth, because, and when that is said, references have been made to Sheriff Dima. In Jamia's time, when he goes to Jimara and talks about tribalism, he's referring to Mama Kande. And when he goes to Salem, he's referring to Hamad Ba. So it's a cheap, propaganda tool, which can also be very damaging. But I just want to let the Gambian people know that if you reject Usainu Darboe, you just reject him because he as a person, that's what you really rejecting, but not because of his stance. I have never advocated for tribalism, and I will never advocate for tribalism.
Okay. I don't think, I stand to be corrected when people say the UDP is tribalist or the UDP is an insulting party. They are, aiming such criticism at you per se, but rather, at the grassroots. I've sat here and said that I've equally been insulted, by NPP as well as UDP people, but not the people at the top. I don't have any problem with NPP people at the top. Neither do I have problems with yourself, and your executive members. But how do you rein in? And you use the right word at the beginning, loose cannons of the party who assume no leadership in the party, but just feel that thanks to social media now they can sit somewhere and insult somebody they don't like, somebody they've never met, just because somebody is sometimes even said to have said something about the party.
Yeah. Well, our media committee, particularly in diaspora, they are working. In fact, I have had several meetings with them, and they are doing a lot as far as diaspora is concerned to contain that type of what I would call unacceptable behaviors. In fact, when I went to Manchester, I think 2019 or so, in my statement, I picked up something from Michelle Obama. They said, look, if they go low, you go high. And I tell them, that look, whatever insults are rained on me, just accept it as a cocoa butter that you can use, to really apply on your skin and forget about it. Then tell them, and I tell them, Allah enendiro kentela Allah ta ko tulolomu ali albalomu ala ali nyinya. So they should ignore it.
But it's costing the party.
No. But then I know it's costing the party. But then there are others who pretend to be UDP. And do these things. In fact, sometimes, put people in UDP T-shirts. Because in fact, in Jammeh's time, it was very frequent.
Commonplace.
It was very frequent. And you know who helps them in doing that?
No.
The state agents, the state service agencies. They're the notorious NIA and now SISS.
Really?
Oh yes. They do that. In fact, the day I was arrested, as a gentleman, he had a UDP T-shirt on. He came into
the
my
day you
house.
were arrested by Jammeh.
Jammeh, yeah. Came to my
The beginning of events that led eventually to his downfall.
to his downfall, yes. You know, this gentleman, when I was giving the press conference, he came there. You know, I was saying, we cannot accept this. Mr. Darboe, you are our leader, this and that, you know.
So do you think that practice still continues? Some of these people who are insulting are actually agents planted by the SIS?
Agents planted. Agents, if not by the SIS, but by the party.
Which party?
NPP.
Oh.
NPP. Yes, NPP. Yeah. And this gentleman, the police arrested him. Because the police didn't know, the PIU didn't know what his role was. Yeah. And in fact, he sustained injuries on his head. Yeah.
And that was the mark for you?
No. Because when they came, he was in the hall where we were seated, you know, on the bare floor. You know? And they just came in, picked him out. And he never came back. He never came back.
Do you know what happened to him?
Of course, I mean, his mission was accomplished to come in, stir trouble, and pretend that he was UDP, so he didn't have to come back. Yeah. He was a tall, well-built person. That was happening. In our meetings, people come there and then pretending to be, oh, Darboe, and then creating commotion so that even the delivery of our statements was interrupted. And it's happening. Look, you know, we said that this NPP has learned a lot from the Jammeh way of doing things.
Not from the UDP way of doing things.
Certainly from the UDP way of doing things. I say this, President Adama, I'm sure he's listening because he knows that I'm coming here. So he says, let me see what my father is going to say. You know? President Adama, there was not a single executive committee meeting that I remember which he was absent. And he knows our core values. And he knows why we were fighting the Jammeh administration. Not because Jammeh was a soldier, not because Jammeh was a Jola, but because the policies that they have, the human rights abuses, the misuse of public resources. I mean, when you go on the farmer store, I mean, those type of ambience, using public resources for no justification. The use of public officials, permanent secretaries, who are forced to go to their family members and tell them, well, if you want me to continue in my employment, you have to vote APRC. That is what they were doing.
But that has stopped now, hasn't it?
But if it has stopped, you have now put people on salary doing that.
Who?
The campaign managers. He's on salary. The national, all those people. I mean, Sekumbano, political advisor. If you're a political advisor, you should be advising.
You're saying their salary is coming from the GLF, the Gambia local?
It's in the budget.
Okay. Yeah, taxpayers' money.
Taxpayers' money.
And you're saying that's illegal?
It is, look, it is a principle, it is an issue that we had fought against. That permanent secretaries who are employed or civil servants who are employed by the government of the Gambia cannot go out and campaign for the APRC. We were all united on that.
Are the permanent secretaries going out and campaigning for NPP or Adama Barrow?
Well, I know of a few permanent secretaries who really have done their bid for Barrow, and that has earned them probably a more enhanced, positions.
How unfortunate.
In the
But the question
service.
before this was, is it illegal that the advisors to the president, including the campaign manager, are paid by the Gambian taxpayer?
Well, you see,
it may be wrong, but is it illegal? Is what I'm trying to get.
Unfortunately, that was not an issue that was taken up for the court to make a pronouncement on that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was not.
So then it can't be dismissed as illegal.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're talking to Alhaji Usainu Darboe. Actually, he needs no introduction, but it's just the way radio and television goes. At some point, you have to identify your guest. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. We are grateful to all our sponsors.
Excellent jam, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de de. Luta mënuloo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ana lay waxal.
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bisul mu fine? Wave, your money is yours.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country.